Hello
All right,
there,
so
Mr. Fox.
we've got the hawk in now, look.
We've got the hawk.
And guess what? You know.
It's one-eyed.
Yeah, exactly. Like someone else I know. Well, I've got two eyes. But one's a fairly dysfunctional.
Does look a lot like you.
Well,
Only
all right.
I know where this came from. My great-granddad shot this bird
Is that right? That's
way
just
back in the
disgraceful.
day.
Yeah.
Maybe he found it
Uh,
dead. I don't know.
well, we'll see.
But it
you
was
know.
in his living room.
It doesn't,
Anyways,
it doesn't sound
it was
too
my
good.
wee pet.
Yeah, because
Now you can be my wee pet.
we're in Denmark, right?
Aye.
I don't know where we've told people that in the last other two podcasts.
No.
That we're actually here in Denmark and we're down in the basement of our house here.
Yes, what used to be my parents' house,
That was
which is
right.
now our
When
house.
you talk about this hawk and all, it sounds terrible. People go, "Oh God," but they're country people, and they
My
were-
great-granddad was a farmer.
Yeah.
And he lived on a farm just 400 metres up the road.
yeah,
Yeah. And he used to hunt
aye.
in the forest.
yeah. And he wasn't a gratuitous, like he wasn't just sort of go out killing things like for the sake of it, like and stuffing them and all that. There, like.
Anyways, that's a side
That's another
step
story.
already.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was really funny. You were telling me about those the punk stories, and you were telling me about all those crazy publicity stunts in the Bank Robbers, the band, the Bank Robbers.
Yeah.
But you never told me how on earth did you manage to get a career up and running in 1980 in whatever the world was like then. So tell me about that. How
Well-
did you end up in England?
Well, the thing was, obviously the way things were at that time in Belfast, it was, if you thought you could get a chance to get out of there, you know what I mean, through football, sports, boxing, whatever, and music was one of the things that, well, it was a rare thing, but when the music came knocking to me, knocking my door, I knew how to, I knew an opportunity when I seen it. Do you know what I mean? And I took it, and I gripped it with both hands, and I was passionate about it. But there was no doubt about it. There was, I mightn't have made sense about it at the time, but there was a driver there. There was that drive.
You followed your instincts.
Yeah, I followed my instincts.
How did you actually physically get from one island to the other?
In
1980, surely you couldn't afford to fly.
Well, that's true. Now, you could if you went on a thing called standby, but it wasn't guaranteed. To buy a full fare would have cost you a pretty penny. But to actually get there, you might have went on standby. And many a times, 9 times out of 10, no problem, you would have got on the flight. But in the early days for the Bank Robbers, let's say, going to London for the first time, me and Shamie O'Neill, the drummer, and we had this demo, we just finished this demo. And fair play
Which
to
is a
Shamie.
tape, a cassette tape.
Yeah, it was a cassette tape. But fair play to Shamie because he was the architect of the said initiative, And he set up meetings. He set up a load of meetings. And with God, there was some fairly remarkable record companies, managers, and the late great Gavin Martin, who was writing for the NME, and by virtue of the fact that he was from Northern Ireland, he was able to. We thought, right, well, he'd be an obvious ally or friend. Well, that didn't turn out to be the case.
No, we'll get on to that later.
It's safe to say that we got off to a frosty start, and me and Gavin and Jamie, but particularly me and Gavin, and then we ended up being the best of friends. Who I absolutely loved that man dearly, and we were really good mates beyond music, And he died recently, and I was I'm still pretty broken hearted about it. I must admit, because I miss him, and I'm not one for. I'm saying people have run their race, like when you die, you die. I mean, it's part of life and all that, and and that's natural part of life. But with Gavin, it's like, I miss him in the sense that for the rest of my life, however long or short it's going to be, he'll not be there. And I'll go to the same places where he went when he died, you know. When we die, we all go to the same place, or we all go the same way, or whatever. Regardless if you're religious or not, that's what happens. You die, you die. But I really do miss him. But anyways.
So you and Shamey have a load of meetings within the music industry.
Yep.
Are you already on Good Vibrations label at that stage?
Yeah.
So Terry Hooley took you on this wing in Belfast.
Actually, we weren't talking rubbish.
Not yet?
No, not yet. We'll never made
so
it.
You were kind of free agents.
That's right.
You thought, let's go to London with a tape and see if someone's going to take us on board.
Well, that was it. I think that's what differentiated ourselves from other bands who would have, frankly speaking, would have just moaned about, oh, there's never any blah, 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 and this place is crap and all. But they never actually took, I'm not saying no bands did, but many of them just winced, you know. And we were always quite proud of the fact that Shamey and me, as I said, got on the boat. It was a boat from Stranraer from Larne to Stranraer.
Which is in Scotland.
In Scotland, indeed.
It's a long way. And
it's a long way.
You get a bus from there to London.
That was right.
Wow.
We ended up, it was an all-night bus through Wales. And the first journey was remarkable in the sense that there we were. I was only just turned 18, and Shamey says, "Oh, we're staying with a mate over there," and I didn't know anything about it. I was like, where we're staying, never been to London before, never really been in fact, I'd never been out of the country before, and here we were. And as I say, Shamey was the architect of the initiative mostly, and anyhow, we're on the boat, and it was big adventure, of course. We're only 18, as I say, demo in hand, and on the boat, blah, blah, blah. Got the other side. I know Shamey had a few drinks, and he was getting off the actual gangway. It was like a plank,
And turn you a bit.
And blah, blah, it was like a gangway, and Shamey was all
Here
hyper.
they come, the Irish off the boat.
Exactly. Well, that happened fairly regularly, but just at the bottom, you got to imagine it was the troubles, of course, and just at the bottom of the gangway were two cops,
Taking
just
you out.
watching, just checking everybody out.
Young men must have been at the top of their list.
Well, that's right, but Shamey had a big head of hair, big, massive head of hair, and I was like, I spotted this
And
cop.
you were ginger.
Yeah, I was ginger.
Sticking out.
Yeah, but Shamey was loud. Loud.
Right.
And he was all hyper and jumping around, and as he was coming down closer to where the cops just, with a Scottish accent, come here, called him over, Shamey come over. I just knew he was a wee bit unruly, He should have been keeping his head down. Instead of that, he was sort of ignored
Excited.
the cops. And excited. That's all he was. He wasn't
And
doing
very
anything.
tall.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he wasn't
okay.
doing anything wrong. But the cop came on and says, "What's your name, man?" Seamus. He says, "Well, when your neck down," he says, "you're not in fucking Ireland now, mate.
Wind your neck down.
Wind your neck down." And he sat him packing, and I was like, fuck, there we go. But anyway, we got on the boat, or on the bus, sorry. And it was fucking terrible, it was awful. We were buzzing for a piss or a crap or whatever, you know what I mean? You're like, whoa.
It's a long way.
And that recently I've been playing that National Express by Divine Comedy.
Yeah.
A lot. I would occasionally go back to that and just whap myself laughing because it was kind of like that,
I've done the one from Dublin to London, bus overnight. Some rare characters always get on those buses.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
You don't know who you're going to meet, and you meet everybody.
It's unheard of now that people do
They don't
such
do that
things,
anymore,
I mean, I tell a lie. I've heard a friend of mine done it the other week. I was saying, like, what the hell's going on there? But anyway, we got into London, and I remember really wrecked. I mean, the bloody thing was just a traumatic experience. Mm-hmm. And we met a guy there, and he was giving us a hard time. Again, another guy I didn't get on well with when I first met him, but he gave me a real hard time. He says, "Well, he's coming over here, friggin', you think you're going to be pop stars and all, ways up to yourself and all, Subsequently, about 2 years later, when I was signed to EMI Records, I met him at a festival, and David Bowie was the headline, and we were signed to EMI, David Bowie's, a record company. So we got VIP guests to his show, And lo and behold, who did they bump into? But your man, who we met in London for the first day, saying, "Why he's up? He's no, who do you think you are now?" I'd shut him up anyway. But he turned out to be a really nice guy anyway, you know. But it was just as fate would have it. But we met with a lot of people and a lot of interesting meetings. But there was one guy in particular from an old 60s band called Davy, Dick, Mickey and something or whatever, you know. One of these bands, but they were quite well known. I think it was Kim Wilde's father.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
it was him. It was Kim Wilde's father. I found that out later, but you know, she hadn't been invented yet. Like I don't think.
It's before
but
that.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, he had this lovely office, and anyway, there's me and Shamey, like, you know.
So he's like an A&R.
Yeah, manager stroke A&R. He had
Okay.
a kind of independent label or whatever at that time, and you know, I think he'd heard the demo, and he would arrange this meeting anyway, and Emma went and all. He was quite posh office and everything, and you know, he just took a look at us, and he's like, he looked us up and down, he goes, "All right, lads, all right, mate." No, you know, we were all like totally naive. "All right, mate." He says, "Sit down there," you know. So we're sitting down, and he just looked at us and he says, "You know what?" He says, "I listened to the demo." He says, "The music's not for me." He says, "It's just not for me." He says, "But you know something?" He says, "You two guys, you're just brilliant." And we were like, "What? What's he talking about?" He says, "You remind me so much of the way I was when I was a kid, your age, just going for it and everything." And he says, and I remember it wasn't that late in the day, like, I remember he goes, "You know what?" He picked his phone up and he says, "Hold my calls," sort of thing, you know, and I can put the phone down. He went like this, and he walked over. There was a cabinet. He opened the cabinet and he went, "Do you want a drink, lads?" Da 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 da. Maybe he's an alcoholic or something, I don't know. But he poured us out, and I think it was brandy. And he put 2 glasses down. He just put his feet on the table and he just says, "These are just class, these 2 guys, man." He says, "You're brilliant." He says, "I remember when I started out," and he just ranted on for about, I don't know, an hour or something, you know, saying, "And this is what you got to do," and all, blah, 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 and this is what I did and all. And he just bonded with us, you know what I mean? And there was no pretense or anything like that there, you know. And he was like moved. You know, he was just moved by
Your enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, you know.
You were brave coming over. But there's another story that I kind of remember you talking about. You're in this. There's someone else's office, also music industry.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take too well to you.
Jesus, there was many.
There's many.
On that trip.
He just ignore you completely.
Well, no, there was on that trip. On that trip, we had about 4 or 5, maybe 6 meetings, right? Mm-hmm. I always remember it was really, really hot, and it was over about 4 or 5 days. I think it was about the 4th day, and we were jumping in between staying with people, and I had the sleeping bag, my rucksack in my back. Mm-hmm. She made a rucksack, and we were just tired, and we're overwhelmed. You know, we're only kids, as I say, at a war-torn Belfast, like. Here we were in London, and we were about to go into Virgin Records, which was like
it was a new thing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a wee small office down Holland Park, I think it was, or up in Kensal Rise or something, somewhere around there, Notting Hill, around that area. And we had, I just said, we just rest. The meeting was in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I said, just let's sit down for a wee while. There was a wee shop, you know. We just threw the rucksacks down. And I think we bought something in the shop and came out and sat down, you know what I mean? Whether it was a packet of fags or something, or a fucking lollipop or something, I don't know. But we sat down, I remember sitting down, and people were just walking by. Of course, we were from Belfast. We didn't think sitting down just, you know, wherever you feel like it.
That's not the thing to do. Like.
It's not the thing. That wasn't the thing to do, apparently. So out comes this wee guy from the shop. Happened to be Pakistani sort of a guy. He was a Pakistani guy or Indian or whatever. And he comes out and he says, no, you can't. No, I'm moving away. Heck, mate, you know, what's the problem? We genuinely didn't see what the problem was. And I got up and was saying, come on, we're just relaxing, you know, come on now, man. And just this guy walked by, a couple of people were walking by, no one was taking much notice. We weren't aggressive or anything towards the car or anything like that there. We're just trying to reason it out. But it was no big deal really. And this guy went by, big fat guy, walked by, big overweight guy. And he looked at me and I looked at him sort of as if to say, and I get dead, this says, what are you looking at, you know? And he walked on. And so 15 minutes later, we went into Virgin. Mm-hmm. And it was a smelly place. It had, you know, this was the beginnings of Virgin, like, you know, look what it is now. And it had smelly carpet. I can always remember that. I remember we walked in, it was kind of damp and smelly, like. Mm. And there was a person in the reception area, which was just in the middle of a couple of dodgy offices. And he says, we're here to see Jumbo. All right, 2 o'clock meeting or something. Says, I down there, first on the left sort of thing, or right or whatever. I bounced down anyway. I opened the door. He wasn't your man. I said, hey, what are you looking at? And he was also, for fuck's sake, you know.
Good start.
I didn't get off to a fucking good start, like, but...
But what about the guy who was on a phone call?
Oh, no.
You weren't there. Was that the same?
No, that's a story that, what I call him, Michael...
oh, that's Mike Edgar's story.
Mike Edgar's
I thought
story.
it was you and Shamey as well.
It was no, it wasn't. Mike Edgar. And I mean, yeah, exactly. For all the stories I've ever heard in the music business, and you can imagine 42 years, I've heard them all. Like, mm-hmm. This one sums it all up so beautifully and simply. And it was Mike Edgar told me a story sitting at an AMI. He was signed AMI with Cruella de Vil. And Michael was there. I call him Mick. Mick was there. And we were sitting on the settee and we're waiting for a meeting. I was meeting, or the bankers were waiting for this guy for fucking a couple of days or something. Mick comes in anyway, we're getting chatting. Mick's this fucking hilarious guy, really hilarious. But he tells me this story about his band, Cruella de Vil, and him going round doing the same thing, you know, the meetings and all, trying to, with the demo. And he goes in, they want some record company, and him and his lead singer, Munzer, I think his name was, he goes in and he sees this guy, you know, on a seat like this here, executive guy. You know, in those days that was really impressive, these stupid
big
seats,
desk.
you know, big desk and all, big stereo. Hands him the demo, he sticks the demo on. He's just looking at Mick and he's looking at Munzer. Now Mick has this briefcase, because you had to have a briefcase to look like you were serious, you know.
Back in the 80s, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But all he had was a sandwich in it and a load of blank papers. Anyway, your man sticks the demo on. He's looking at Mick and he's looking at Munzer, you know. And next thing the phone rings and he goes like this, and he spins round to his back and he starts waffling away. The 3 songs go by. Mick says he's looking at his feet and all, see if he's tapping and all, you know, just looking for an indication that he's enjoying the songs. And it goes on, the demo stops, he's still on the phone, whatever, like. Mick and fucking Munzer's sitting there, and the next minute, your mom, the phone call ends, mom puts down the phone, he swings around, he goes, are you still here?
It's the ultimate rejection, that one.
Fucking classic, absolute classic, right? It was so funny. But Mick says he fucking, he opens his fucking, he gets flustered, and he opens his briefcase, and his fucking sandwich has his half-eaten sandwich falls out with paper, you know, nothing on him, blank paper and everything. He tells it better than I do, obviously, but
that's a good one.
It's a cracker, like.
But you and Shane are in London. Is that the same time as you go over and see Gavin Martin?
That was the same.
So Gavin Martin moves to London before you used to, and he writes for the NME, which is a music magazine.
That was right. And it was a big deal.
And it's important to get a good review.
Well, of
everybody
course,
knows that.
Exactly. And we scammed our way into a couple of places too. It wasn't that some places we had meetings, and other places we just targeted people. Like Gavin, we didn't have a meeting.
Snuck past
we snuck
front
by
desk.
the front desk and bluffed our way in. We bluffed our way into EMI, for example. And, we got to talk to people that way. I mean, you know, all that was going on. As I say, we had a few meetings. Other times we were just chancing it. Gavin was one of them. So we got the NME, and we got in the door, and we got upstairs, and it was a big open office. And we said to somebody, it's lively enough kind of place, people, you know,
typing on typewriters.
Typing on typewriters. Like, I don't know if they were the actual typewriters, but they might have been electrical, but they were typewriters. Like, you know, it wasn't like when they were today. But I remember coming out of the lift or the stairs possibly, and anyway, people walk by. Excuse me, do you know where Gavin? Oh, that's him over there. There's Gavin again. Working away like fucking
penny glasses.
And you know, fucking sparks flying off his fucking fingers and all, you know. Like, but that's what I remember of him. The focus of him, he was really just like us here, you know. And I dondered over, Shimmy dondered over, and we came up side profile to him, you know. He's fucking typing away like us here, you know. And he knows we're there. He sort of goes like that. He sees a pair of legs because he's sitting down, you know. But he just ignores. He's just ignoring. And we says, hello? And he goes, huh? And we go, we're the bank robbers. And he goes, I don't like the bank robbers. Like that there, you know what I mean? You know, and that's all he said. And we were like, we're starting there with a fucking demo in our hand, you know, we're going, well, we came all the way over from Belfast. Right, okay. And we were like, fuck me, he wouldn't even look at us, like, he didn't even look at us, and I felt I was so tired, you see. I felt this fucking thing rise up on me, like, you know, and I we're going, well, we would like to leave the demo. That's okay then, go ahead, right, dead on. Okay. He's just walking away, he never even looked at us, I swear to God, and I was just feeling, and Shamey knew. He says to me, right, Joby, come on.
You can see you about to boil over.
He put the demo down, and Shamey just sort of, you know, nuzzled me out of the building kind of thing. And it used to work both ways, by the way. Shamey used to lose a rag a wee bit himself, and I used to know when to step in too. But I was, you know, he just annoyed me for obvious reasons. And I got outside, and I remember the door closed. And I genuinely, it was like that. The door just went click, and I was going, I'm going to go fucking back in that box. And the door just clicked, and I couldn't get back in again. The
universe intervened.
Yeah, and I was like, you bastard.
But it's funny because later in life, you used to torture Gavin with that story, and he was a wee bit scundered.
Oh, he was scundered on it. He, you know, once he was getting the better of me, I always used to say, look, yeah, you see when I was in the bank robbers, now I know you don't like the bank robbers, but, and he'd just go, you know, it was like the ultimate fly dig that I could always throw in there. Like,
but you know what amazes me is that it was actually possible to set up meetings and go over to London into A&R offices. Because these days, if you can't get anyone on the phone, it's impossible to call people on the phone and arrange meetings. I find, in general, the world has moved on. Well, that's right. You're actually able to go and do that and meet people to give them a demo.
Yeah, well, that'll be, you know, Simon Cowell who changed the model of the music business, whereas you had an A&R department.
Yeah, it's really hard to get to talk to anyone these days.
Exactly. You had an A&R department that would have went out and looked, and you still do have a small kind of A&R kind of thing going on. But in those days, the model was they went out and looked. Whereas
there was no social media to check people out.
Yeah, you know, now everybody has to go to them sort of thing and all of that. But but that's how it worked. But they were very different times.
But how on earth did you then get signed to EMI?
How?
Because it doesn't sound like an easy thing.
No, it wasn't. It was saturation, I think, and trying to be omnipotent. You know what I mean? And being omnipresent, rather. Omnipotent? What's omnipotent? Omnipresent. Everywhere, you know, I try to be everywhere. And the 2 years from the first time we went to London, myself and Shamey with the demo, there was a whole 2 years before we got signed to EMI Records.
So you were playing in Northern Ireland for a while, or in Ireland, and then you moved over to England and started playing. Was that before you got a record contract?
Absolutely.
We were playing.
Yeah, we moved to Birmingham then, along 1980. We were living out in Birmingham, and we'd already been playing a few gigs, so we went over with the demo, this, that and the other thing, and then I think Jerry McAvoy and Brendy O'Neill from the Rory Gallagher band produced the first single, which was called On My Mind. And this is with the Bank Robbers, of course. And, you know, those connections, Brendy and Jerry got us a couple of gigs in London, so we went over and done a series of gigs there. And then we had, I think we came back once or twice, and then we said, hey, we gotta go to what I call it, we live in Birmingham now, because we were doing well in Belfast around 80 to 82 too. So, but we decided we'd go to Birmingham and get a house there and live in Birmingham, close to where our manager lived, a guy called Mark Walmsley. And he actually coincidentally, well, not coincidentally, he, what I call it, was the manager of the Europa Hotel. And he was able to, you know, he knew a lot of people in the music business too. So anyway, cut a long story short, we ended up in Birmingham. And Jerry...
I'm sure they were thrilled to have a bunch of Belfast lads.
Well, this is
there.
it. Yeah, I mean, along that time we were gigging, and I have to say that there were gigs that we done, and there was there were whole periods in that 80 to 82 that I've talked to you about, but only to convey that, Jesus Christ, Sophie, I remember being in certain places, but because I didn't know London all that well, I can't tell you where they were, but I know that I played in some of the great places and all the rest of it, and those I would know geographically because of their names and all the rest of it. I mean, obviously I played the Marquee a couple of times, down Water Street and all the rest of it, and the 100 Club and all of that, the Knightsbridge Inn or something like that there. But we played loads of gigs. We also played...
What's the one in Hackney?
No, that was the Hackney Empire.
Yeah.
That comes later. So what I'm trying to get at is, anyway, we there was a whole period there, and Jerry McAvoy was helping us out, as I said. But we lived in Birmingham, and when we went to Birmingham, we went there in a van, and with a load of gear in the van, and 8 of us in a van. And all we knew is we're going to Birmingham. Our manager says, come over, and we'll get a house and all the rest. But it didn't work out that way.
So you lived in the van?
So yeah, for a couple of weeks we're actually living in the van. Now we'd done a gig in Birmingham, at this gig up in, what do you call it, Erlington I think it was. And we're in Erlington and we'd done this gig, and it was right beside the train stop. And we parked the van there in the car park. And the van broke down. So after the gig, we came out, the van was broke down, with nowhere to sleep. You know, we hadn't thought that far. And we thought we were going to get, you know, walk in, get a house and all this. It didn't work out that way. There were issues. And we all ended up living in a van for a couple of weeks. And it was just, you know, like, the thing that I would say about it is that the outstanding memories of it is that these people who, my bandmates, were so supportive. We all supported each other through all that period, and honestly, it was love that kept us all together. It was the love and brotherhood. It was the brotherhood, the band of brothers thing that kept us. We were all, no matter how bad things got, we were all in it together.
Because you had no money or nothing.
Yeah, with no money, and we had to resort to stealing, going down into the supermarket and nicking food.
That's terrible.
And yeah, and we literally had to go. Some of us did and some of us did. You know, there was me and a guy, I'll not mention his name, but Paddy, our roadie, who is a lifelong friend, but me and him would have been the ones that, you know, we were like, what do you call it, meerkats, you know what I mean? We were like meerkats. It was like, okay, it's time for us to go and feed the family, like. So we go down there, and I'd become a decoy in the supermarket. That's how it worked. I'd look suspicious. I had a big long tweed coat, and I'd go in, fucking sniping around, and some of the store detectives, or whatever you call them, security, would go, You know, it's follow me. Meantime, Paddy was like giving it that there with the bread, and we done that on a fairly regular basis. We got away with it. And there was two girls who would come who knew us from the gig, and they looked after us. And eventually, after 2 weeks, I mean, we used to wake up. It was summer, like, you know, it wasn't too bad, but we'd wake up in the morning with the sweat of our bodies that hit the top of the van would drip on our faces. Like it was 7 a.m. That would unless we had something over a thing like that, and we were all like sausage rolls, you know. And Paddy worked it out. What do you call it? There was a wee park down the road, and they'd open the toilets early enough in the morning. Like it was in those days when it was, you know, civilized enough for people to have these things, and what do you call it? You know. You just wouldn't get away with that these days. But anyway, that's how it was. And off we went, and Paddy would go down early in the morning too. But sometimes he would go down on first light and just lay down in the long grass and sleep in the park, catch another couple of hours because the fucking farm was gross, like. And I always remember Paddy laying in the park partly, and along came his cab. The cop says, "Hey, what are you doing there?" Paddy says, "Trying to get a bit of fucking sleep. What does it look like to you?" You know? And the cop was like, "Hey, man, you know, fucking blah, blah, what's the story?" Got chatting to Paddy. Fucking Paddy charmed the birds out of the trees, like. He ends up, the fucking copper takes him down to a local Crazy Spoon, feeds him.
Wow.
And what do you call all of that, you know, but...
That's quite extraordinary because only 6 years earlier, the Birmingham bombing.
Yeah, well, you could probably construe from it that he was probably information gathering, you know. I mean, it probably wasn't as what do you call it, as benevolent as first thought, like. But, you know, as it happens, we got our house, we were living there for 6 months, but it was about the 4th month. We were running up and down to London. I was playing with the Ruts DC. Well, the lads, the bank robbers, were playing with the Ruts DC. 2 nights at the Fulham Greyhound. And the first night went brilliantly, you know, we supported the Ruts. Great. You know, at that time we were doing brilliant gigs, doing brilliant support slots and everything. And we were starting to rise. And the first night was brilliant, as I say. The next night I had to go up and sign on in Birmingham. And you know,
because you were getting benefits.
Yeah. We weren't making any.
You weren't
money.
Getting paid for your gigs.
So we weren't
as a support. No.
Yeah, we weren't breaking any laws really. So I bounced up the New Street, up a sub lane, and I had to be back for the gig that night. You know, but it was rock and roll. That's how it was. You know, it was how it worked. Logistics, travel, whatever. So we worked it out. It should be okay. No problem. Everything goes to plan. And the intercity, you know, just goes down from fucking Edinburgh or Glasgow, you know, 1 hour every hour, you know. So if I missed the first train, it would have been worried on the next one, going back. So headed up. I think I ended up. I know I went to the house. I can't remember what it was. I think I went to the house to get my signing on card, and then to the door, and I signed on it. And my clerk was sound. He was a musician himself, and I just levels with him and says, "This is what we're doing." And he says, "Look, that's okay. Just keep your high hand low. You know, I'll cover you. Just do your thing, and you know, whatever." So he was a nice guy, and signed on. I'd be telling him I was playing with the Ruts. I had to get back down again and all. And he was like, "Right." So I started. For some reason, I was running a bit late. So I was running about pretty frantically, and I headed down the sub lane, down to New Street. And I missed the fucking train that I was trying to get on. But eventually I got on the train. But I was running late. And I worked it where I went on the down New Street station, down to London, whatever station it was. I headed out to Hammersmith. And Fulham Palace Road, the Greyhound was just up the Fulham Palace Road. But I approached it on Hammersmith. It was quite a bit up that road. So I literally had to run. It was we were on stage about 7 o'clock, let's say, 7:30, 8 or whatever. And I was running late. And I mean, I was like frantically running up this road, right? Because we were about to go on. It's like 5 minutes late. And I thought, right, well, 5 minutes late, you know, it won't be too bad. Till I got to the gig. Fucking, it was like big crowd outside. It was sold out. It was punk. You know, it was a lot of people drunk. It was messy. There was loads of doormen, big fucking guys, you know. And he up these steps. The stage door was closed. No one round the stage door. Like, that was it. You could bang on that all night. You wouldn't get in. And the fucking, as I'm approaching the fucking gig, I can hear fucking the first, what I call it, song of the set. Jenny it was called. He ended up being a single, but it's playing away. I'm like, what the fuck? I remember I went up the steps and I could see there was lots of people around, doormen or whatever as I say it, but I could see over the shoulders the fucking bass player of the Ruts playing my bass, and the rest of the band, and they're playing the first song of the set. And I'm going, fuck. And I says, the doorman sort of looked at me because I probably looked a wee bit different from the rest. Everybody was all like, and I was like, I looked like I had a bit of intention there, you know.
You weren't drunk?
No, I wasn't drunk. And I was like, the guy says, you know, it's full house, mate. I says, man, I meant to be playing there tonight. He says, you what? I says, look, I'm the bass player of that band there, man. He says, you fucking what, mate? I says, I'm supposed to be playing on that fucking stage, or you know. And he goes, oh, fuck off, mate. Tells another one sort of thing, you know, go fuck off. I says, no, you don't understand. And the 3 or 4, they're all like, you know, all right, mate. We've heard it all now. I says, no, you don't understand. And I had these big sort of glass doors. It was various doors. And they had it pretty much covered. I'm not exaggerating. There must be at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 doormen. Like, they're like, fucking, you know, punk thing, like as I said. And he's going, oh, fucking, go on, mate, fuck off, you know. And I was going, for fuck's sake. And someone opened the door, right? I just seen a gap in the door, right? Fucking, your mother just sort of momentarily moved his head away. And I went, whew. Fucking split through the door, straight through the fucking door. And I'm taking my life in my hands doing this, like, taking my life in my hands. And I get in through the fucking crowd and battling through the crowd, right? And these cunts were coming off me, 3 or 4 of them too. It wasn't just their man, they were, you know. And working my way through the crowd, bang, bang, bang. Finally get to the end of the thing, and there's a wee gap there. And there was doormen there was security there. I fucking bounced through there and looked at your man, the Ruts DC guy, playing. And he looked at me right away and he went, you know, and the rest of the band were always all telepathic, you know. And I was like, oh,
there he is.
There he is, you know. I fucking climbed up, and just in time, not exaggerating, just in time for your man to fucking go. And everybody's like, hey, it's all right and all. And he hands me, I stands up, grabs the bass, you know, fucking bang into the fucking 3rd verse or whatever it was, and turned around. Your mom was just going, oh, right, okay, everybody's fucking calm down and all, you know. And I'm like, you know.
Here we go.
That was crazy. So that whole time, subsequently, I found out 2 weeks later that we were getting followed by I was being followed by British intelligence. By the Serious Crime Squad, actually. I say British intelligence. Yeah. Serious Crime Squad.
Because the IRA was very active in England.
That's right.
Throughout the 70s and into the 80s, yeah.
And they were watching.
So any young male from Belfast would have been
exactly, and we
suspicious.
Yeah, and they didn't have computers in them days the way they do now, and yeah, pardon me, they were watching us for a couple of weeks. Subsequently, found that out because I think it was about 2 weeks later. We're all laying in the house, early morning. I slept down in the lower part of the house. Shared a room with McGinn, Paddy, and the rest of the lads. We were just an ordinary day. Next thing, bang, 7 o'clock in the morning, fucking door comes through, front door comes through.
They kicked the door in?
Oh, I kicked the door in.
Someone kicks the door in?
Oh, kicks the door in, shouting, squealing. You know, I'm just coming round. I remember just coming round my bed, you know, laying there horizontal, you know, open my eyes, and next thing this fucking cunt's got a fucking gun right to my head, like.
So a policeman is standing over you with a gun in your head, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, he's not just standing there, he's shouting at me.
Yeah.
He's going, he goes, don't fucking move, don't fucking move. It was a big rumpus, just a big rumpus, like, all over the fucking house. But with me, he was saying, don't fucking move, who fucking lives here and all that. I always remember this, I laugh at it thinking about it. I says, a load of Irishmen. He says, fucking load of Irishmen. Whatever the fuck that meant. Like,
I thought you might have figured that one out.
yeah. But it was weird. It was weird to say, I said
Yeah.
that. So he had me up and, I mean, like, I was like fucking doing the
So
river
you were all
dance.
arrested for being Irish.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He got me up, I was like fucking doing the river dance, you know, my trunks, you know. And the fucking, you know, they got everybody and, you know, and I was going, you know, hands up in the air and all. I said, can I put my trousers on? That was it. People started calming down and put us in handcuffs. Dragged us down the road. Separated us all. And, you know, they put us all in a separate room, interview room.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there and I was like, fuck's sake, you know. And I'd been arrested before for fucking misdemeanors and stuff like that there, you know, and all that kind of crack. You know, obviously through the troubles, but
You hadn't done anything.
I
You
hadn't
were over
done
there playing music.
that's it. And
So it must have been shocking.
well, it was, you know, not so much till I was okay, sort of at that point, because I had been arrested before. I said, well, these guys, I don't know what they're at here, but anyway, I'm in the room and this guy walks in and he just looks at me, I guess, and he goes, right, Joe, I've only one question to ask you, pal. And he says, here it is. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And he goes, and the door hadn't closed. And it was fucking like cinematic, like there's no doubt about it. It was unbelievable, the timing of it. And he says, I want to know what you had to do with, and the door just went click, the London bombings. Right? I swear to fuck. And I was like,
What?
I just fucking sunk, and I remember
You passed
sinking. I started to, I felt myself passed out.
You understood how severe it was.
I literally passed out. I started passing out. I didn't completely pass out, but I was passing out. I was starting to slip down. I was like,
You turned to
God.
jelly.
I just turned to jelly, and I slipped down. It started slipping down. It was about to fall on the floor. And your man comes over. He goes, hey, come on, man, Joe. Get yourself the car. Sit up in that chair now. Come on, son, he says, slap me about now. Get up the fuck. Do you want a glass of water now? Here. I was going, what? I was in total shock. Total shock. I didn't know what the fucking to say or do or anything. And I just was like...
Well, they found out pretty quick it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with
Nothing
you.
to do with it. I was
Yeah.
going... I'm a musician, mate. I said, I don't know anything about that. He says, what were you doing in this street and all the rest of it? I was going, what? Here's me. I was sleeping, me and Shamey, the van, there was a couple of people kept us in a flat, a couple of people slept in the van, a couple of people slept in the car. And he says, what were you doing in that street? I remember the name of the street, and so did he knew. And it transpires, what were we doing? I just explained to him. He says, we're doing a gig for this, that, and the other. What about there? What are we doing there? No, why were you running around here? No.
So they followed you the whole time.
Followed me
for
the whole
weeks.
time. And I was like, what the fuck? How do you do that? And he said, we know what you've been doing for the last 2 weeks, but what have you been up to? And I told him, and everybody else did, and it obviously corroborated. And he was fine after that. After a wee while, he was just fine. He was just going, like, I get it, right, okay, you know, you understand we have to do these things, and this is what our job is, and, you know, you heard about the Birmingham bombings and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, whatever, look, it's nothing to do with us. He says, we had called Andersonstown Barracks to corroborate.
Back in Belfast.
Back to
your local police station in Belfast.
local police station. And he came back in, he'd been out and came back in. He says, you guys are well got, he says, because them policemen in Andersonstown Barracks said that if we touched the hair off the head of any of our bank robbers, their bank robbers, that they would have them the answer to. They wouldn't be too happy. So
That was quite
Andersonstown
amazing.
Barracks claimed the bank robbers, our band, as their bank robbers, you know. It was hilarious. Like.
That's quite
But
extraordinary.
it is extraordinary because the
Well,
cops
thank
were
God.
fucking
So
rough
they let you
those
off then.
days. That is often.
And despite all those trials and tribulations, you still managed to get a record deal and move on. I thought that was pretty good.
Well, that's true, you know. And as I said,
Stuck with it.
yeah, we stuck with it, and you know, we went back to Belfast, and you know, we increased our exposure again, and all of that. And then
But
Tube
were you signed on? Were you on Terry Houli's label, Good
Yeah.
Vibrations, first,
we were.
and then you played on the Tube, and then you got picked up.
That's exactly right.
So the Tube back then was the biggest music program, and
Yeah.
we don't really have these great programs. Well, I suppose X Factor was a whole different concept. But back then, you know, you would have got your new music would have been performed live on TV.
Yeah,
Would
there
been
was
the
always a
thing.
section. There was always a section on the
Once you
Tube.
did that, you know, you knew you were
Oh,
made, I suppose.
Well, mostly, you know, I would say 9 times out of 10, any band that appeared on the Tube.
So that was the BBC, right?
No,
No, it wasn't. It was Channel 4, was it?
Channel
Yeah.
4. It wasn't
Which
even
is a
Channel 4. It was
national-
10T's television.
Oh, right.
So it went out on ITV, and it was for
It's still
example.
National Network, wouldn't it be? National Network.
Yeah, it
all
was a
of
big.
UK,
It
yeah.
was the big show, apart from Top of the Pops. You know what I mean? This was an alternative, different format and all that. So we ended up on that, and it was the first series, and they came over and had done a what do you call it, a documentary aspect of it. You know, there was live people playing live and all the rest. But then they'd done this like report, if you like, from you know Belfast, talking about the music scene. We appeared on it with many other bands too. And what I call it, subsequently from that, we had already been over to England a lot of times, and we were in the press, and we were, you know, doing all the usual gigs around England, Scotland, Wales, or whatever. And then on top of that, EMI then came a knocking, and we got a contract with EMI Records, and you know, the first kind of, if you like, real rock and roll I experienced like was being invited to the Tube at the end of the series party. We were on the series, then we were invited over. You know, we went to the last showing of the series. It was live, and Jules Holland was one of the presenters, along with what do you call her, Bob Geldof's wife, ex-wife or whatever. Anyway, we got there, and Jules Holland, at that stage I thought he was just going to tear us apart. But the pre-listen before the show went out live, he watched the whole programme, and he turned to me. I was in the room, there was a lot of people, and he says to me, and when everybody was chatting away, he says, "Oh, it was nice and all, that was great." And he says to me, "Do you fancy going for a pint?" I was like really shocked, and he took me for a pint, and we had a good old chat. And we were there, we were in next door, it was in the afternoon, what a pint or two, and they were really nice to us. And it was a real rock and roll thing. We ended up, me and Shamey, we stayed in this place called the Turk's Head in Newcastle, and we got so drunk. It was just so bad. I mean, we were so drunk, and everybody in the hotel, right, got so drunk, and like we're waking up in the morning, and people were like, you know, the other guests, I don't know how they handled it, but there was like naked people, you know, hiding behind the fucking plants and all, people pissing in the plants and fucking, you know, I fell asleep in the car door, for example. There's a whole load of stuff I can't talk about, you know, but it wasn't that bad, like, but, you know, there was quite a bit of nudity, like, I can assure you that, like, but what I call it, I got to my room after a mad session, like, and I always remember having my hand on the fucking handle, and I could just feel it slipping off the handle, you know, and going and landed on the ground. And the woman the woman, there happened to be a woman, she came around in the morning, you know, doing the what do you call it?
Cleaning.
And she says, "Oh, are you okay?" And all. And I got like this. I was like, boom, boom, boom.
You were sleeping in the corridor. Outside your room.
I forgot, I lost my key and all. She says, "What's that in your back pocket?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, all right." And I went in, and a certain person was laying in bed with a certain girl, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I didn't care, I just was like, move over. You know, I don't fucking care. Because I'd given the room, that's what it was. I'd sort of half given the room because, you know.
That was the start of your long
rock and roll.
scary journey down
down the fucking rabbit hole of fucking rock and roll.
just
Like,
kidding, just kidding.
You know,
Brilliant.
there's certain things you don't talk about.
Well, we'll pick it up again. That was a good one.
Thank you. See you soon.
Cheerio.